Good day, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. No introduction, straight up, no chaser. So we're going to get right into it because today we have very few updates, but a lot of news that we're going to talk about. So today marks 2 years since the Hamas-led assault that launched on October 7th of 23, which claimed roughly 1,200 lives and led to the capture of over 250 hostages. Across Israel, memorials unfold in all the cities, but the nation is far from united because protests press for hostage release, criticism ablaze over Netanyahu's strategy, and the war in Gaza grinds on with no end in sight. Even as talks surface in Egypt about a possible ceasefire, the risk is that every deal becomes a political pawn and the hostages become leverage. That is what these hostages have been used when we refer to a lot of the stories that I'll be giving here this morning. Now, it states here that the split in regards of the divide in Israel and the ceremonies reflect deep divisions over Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's leadership, which may blame for the failure to secure a ceasefire that would free the remaining hostages held by the militants. Now in the Gaza Strip, where Israel's retaliatory offensive had killed tens of thousands of people and razed entire towns and cities, those who can are fleeing another Israeli invasion of Gaza City, while others are sheltering in place, and many are unable to make this very heartbreaking, this arduous and costly journey to South. Again, it's a long way for them to travel. That's basically what they're stating here. Also, it states that this marks, again, that 2-year anniversary where 1,200 people were killed that include men, women, and children, as well as older adults. They abducted 251 others, most of whom have since been released in ceasefires or other deals. And 48 hostages remain inside Gaza, around 20 of them believed by Israel to still be alive. So again, today marks that 2-year anniversary of that, very chaotic attack on the innocent Israeli that was at the music fest, as well as a lot of army bases that bombarded by Hamas. Now, the reason why I keep popping this story up when it comes to France, because France for a very long time has been in turmoil. This is the 5th prime minister in less than 2 years. And this is the 3rd prime minister this year alone that has stepped down. Okay. It states here, France, 5th prime minister in less than 2 years. But let's get into the story. This is the latest one right here, Lecoy, who has stepped down. And I'm going to tell you how this correlates with the American government as well. Okay. I want to make sure that I point out the not the differences, but a lot of the similarities that we have in these two governments when we talk about the chaos and the uncertainty. Now, speaking after resignation, Lecorny said each political party is behaving as if they have their own majority in parliament, and that the conditions were not fulfilled to stay in office, according to comments translated by France 24, okay, which is a news agency. They're basically stating that they can't agree. They can't compromise. They can't come to agreement. Right now, in the United States of America, we are in a shutdown because these two political parties cannot make an agreement. The Republicans do not want to add and extend the Affordable Health Care Act, aka Obamacare, throughout the end of the year, and the Democrats want. And I'm going to show you some information here to state that there are a lot of Americans, as well as those that are in the MAGA, who wants this to be extended. But again, when we're dealing with the government we have now, and don't forget the conservatives or Republicans, they control the presidency, the Senate, and Congress, but they still need Democratic votes in order to get a lot of legislation passed. So let me show you again, and that's one of the similarities, that they can't come to an agreement. He said, I was ready to compromise, but each political party wanted the other political party to adopt its entire program. Here are the similarities between France and the United States of America. Each political party wanted the other political party to adopt its entire program. He said in a speech in the courtyard of the Madigan Palace, the PM headquarters. He now departs the role after just 27 days, making him the country's shortest serving prime minister with little to show for his time in office. And as I stated before, this is the 5th prime minister in less than 2 years in France. So I want you guys to have that to sink in, because we're going through the same thing right here in America. The Republicans and Democrats cannot come to agreement, and they're using the people. They're using you and I to take sides, because if you mostly vote Democrat, you're like those damn Republicans. And if you're a Republican, you mostly vote Republican, you're like those damn Democrats, they're evil. And they have the people to war against each other. So we see unrest and upheaval all in the streets of America, people debating and trying to see what political party is more evil than the other political party. Ladies and gentlemen, during this shutdown, did you know that they're still getting paid? Did you know that Congress and the president is still getting paid? So again, the people are the one left holding the bag, an empty bag, by the way. So again, that's why I tell you that, in my opinion, I know that you may vote mostly Democratic because of your views. You may vote mostly Republican because of your views. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't have any loyalty to any political party except for your best interest, as well as your family and your community, because that may have you to vote Democratic sometimes. That may have you to vote Republican sometimes. And then that may not even have you to vote because of all the corruption that is now being revealed. And I don't just mean because President Trump is in office. We saw corruption when Biden was in office. We saw corruption at every level, and these politicians play the American people as pawns. That's all what they're doing, using us as scapegoats and telling us the reason why we can't get things done is because of this political party. The reason why we can't get things done is because of that political party. It's the liberals, it's conservative, it's MAGA, it's the LGBTQ. It's always a particular group, the reason why the government can't move forward. The only thing they need to do is 2 things: sacrifice and compromise. What is in the best interest of the people? If people want the Affordable Health Care Act to be extended, then gosh darn it, extend it. Get the government back running up again and stop playing these political games, because one political party wants their entire program to be adopted versus the other. The same thing that France is going through, America is going through it as well. The only thing we're not going through, because we don't have a prime minister and we have a vice president, he just stays in place. He's just a figurehead until, if something happens to the president. Hopefully it does not. We don't want that to happen. But nonetheless, this is what we're going through, ladies and gentlemen, each and every time. Everybody wants their own way. Now, I know this is very key, because the U.S. Supreme Court has declined to hear Ghislaine Maxwell appeal. And this basically means that her convictions on sex trafficking and conspiracy charges will remain intact. No higher court will review it. No new relief likely coming. And this is a legal import for many and a red flag for those who argue her trial had flaws. But for survivors, it's closure, however bittersweet. Wow. This is a legal confliction, because there's some things I'm going to reveal to you in this particular story. If this deemed to be true, then the courts are basically revoking and erroneously deleting some of the things that stated in incarcerating Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I think this is part of a bigger cover-up. Okay, I'm not trying to throw out any conspiracy theories, but why not grant her appeal and then just deny her appeal? But they denied her appeal to even have her show in court. And listen, she may have a great argument, but I'm gonna let these I'm gonna give you just a brief update on this.
Already working this morning. So what's the latest on this new ruling?
Yeah, their first day on the bench, Diane, and right out of the gate releasing a dozens of pages orders report that included their final judgment now on the appeal of Ghislaine Maxwell, the co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein, who is serving that 20-year sentence. She had asked the justices to look at her conviction, her prosecution. She alleged that a non-prosecution agreement made with Jeffrey Epstein before his death should have applied to her, that she shouldn't have been prosecuted as well, but the justices declined to take up her appeal. They did not explain themselves, but a statement from Maxwell's attorney.
The reason why I believe they denied her appeal, because during her appeal court cases, when she comes up and speak, It's going to give them just cause to reopen this case because right now it's shut and closed. They're going to have to reopen this case, and she may have gotten off. She may have gotten off considering if they have proof that this was part of the agreement that they made with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, listen, it states here that Ghislaine Maxwell, who was contesting her prosecution and conviction on grounds that the government had violated a non-prosecution agreement made with Jeffrey Epstein before his death. Now, she just didn't get that out of nowhere. The Supreme Court did not explain its decision. I want you guys to really think about that. Why are you not explaining your decision of denying her appeal? Oh, we don't have an excuse. Maxwell, the convicted co-conspirator of sex offender Epstein, was challenging her 2022 conviction on 3 counts and 20-year sentence on grounds that federal prosecutors violated an agreement made with Epstein before his death not to prosecute any alleged co-conspirators. So if this is true, technically she don't supposed to be in jail. That's what they're referring to. Technically, she should not be in jail. Now, should she be incarcerated? Absolutely, for the egregious things that she did with Jeffrey Epstein. But from a legal standpoint, we have to erase our emotions from this. Because this is our Justice Department. This is our court system. This is the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court. Because I want you to picture yourself in this situation. Whether you're guilty or innocent. If this was part of Jeffrey Epstein's agreement that no co-conspirators will be incarcerated or prosecuted, then technically Maxwell should be free. But instead of affording her the right of an appeal, they denied her appeal. So they can't even reopen the case in order to talk about it, to even have lawyers to present evidence that this was part of the agreement, and thus she is a co-conspirator and she should be free. What are they hiding? Now, granted, if she's guilty of these very egregious crimes, very despicable crimes, but that's from a moral and ethical standpoint that she should be incarcerated. But from a legal standpoint, is what she's stating is true. She should not be incarcerated. She should not be in jail. Now, I'm pretty sure in the court of public opinion, we're all stating that if you assisted Jeffrey Epstein and, and I don't want to say the R word, but we know taking advantage of these women on this island and you were kind of the mule bringing them in, then yes, you should be incarcerated. Again, that's from a moral and very ethical standpoint. But when we're talking about from a legal standpoint, then if this is true, she should be free. And why deny her appeal if there's not more to this story or things are being covered up for the public not to know? Because believe me, there's a lot of people still asking for the Epstein files. And I'm not just talking about from Democrats and liberals. I'm talking about conservatives. I'm talking about people who don't even talk politics. They want the Jeffrey Epstein files to be released. Wow. Now, of course, yesterday, the federal funding impasses. Senate leaders face humiliation because 2 competing bills. There have been no consensus, no end in sight. Agencies remain frozen. Workers live in uncertainty, and the brinkmanship grows even more personal. And Washington's failure on this isn't a policy issue. It's a crisis of governance. Because here we go again. The government is still in shutdown, and they cannot come to an agreement, ladies and gentlemen.
On this vote, the yeas are 52 and the nays are 42. 3/5 of the Senate duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative. The motion is not agreed to.
Mr. President, I enter a motion to reconsider.
The motion is entered.
Mr. President,
Democratic leader.
I enter a motion to reconsider the cloture vote on the motion to proceed to calendar S2882 calendar.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we're in it for the long haul. It seems like that no one wants to make a deal. Nobody wants to compromise. Nobody wants to sacrifice. It says here that the senators voted 52-42 in the House passed bill, which needed 60 votes to advance. So we're still in a shutdown. Democrats are demanding to stopgap bill include an extension of the Affordable Care Act, premium tax credits that are slated to expire at the end of the year. And it goes on to state here is that I wonder just what exactly Democrats think they're gaining from all of this. I guess they're getting points from the far left interest groups they've been coordinating their shutdown strategy with, Senator Majority Leader John Thune said on the floor earlier Monday. But I highly doubt that they're earning a lot of points with everyday hardworking Americans. And we voted that is a lie. That is a big fat lie, ladies and gentlemen, because now he's speaking for the American people, saying that I don't know that hardworking Americans, they doubt that they're earning a lot of points with them. Yes, they are. Because here we go right here from Forbes. Forbes is stating that nearly 80% of Americans and 57%, more than half of MAGA Republicans, want ACA tax credits to be extended. They want these credits, okay? They want these credits to be extended. Nearly 80, here we go again, 80% of Americans and 59% of Republicans want Congress to extend tax credits for those with low and moderate income so they can afford individual coverage under the Affordable Health Care Act. That is what they're referring to, ladies and gentlemen. So I don't know what that particular senator was referring to, but the polls are stating something very, very different. That the Affordable Health Care Act, aka Obamacare, and if you notice, they're kind of going with the Affordable Health Care Act. They're not really calling it Obamacare anymore, because if they extend it, they want the American people to keep thinking Affordable Health Care Act is not associated with Obamacare, which they are one of the same. It's the same thing. That wait a minute, he voted for Obamacare. That was supposed to have been bad. No, Affordable Health Care Act is actually good. It's actually helping millions and millions of low-income Americans. And that is what the Democrats wanted to build. And that is what a lot of people on the right and left want. But here we are at a shutdown once again, because our politicians, for some reason, cannot make compromises and sacrifices for the betterment of the American citizens, because they want their entire budget plan to be adopted by the other political party. That's what this is about. And again, American citizens are footing the bill. We're holding an empty bag, because there are going to be a lot of American citizens going to be furloughed and laid off and sent home without pay. And then those essential workers like military personnel, FAA, TSA, those guys are essential workers. So they have to come in with no pay. And if they don't come in, they're going to lose their jobs. See, I think that we need more unification as American citizens. We need more unification as American citizens. What I mean by that we need to coordinate TSA, if they would just coordinate and state that we're going to shut it all down. We're not coming into work. I guarantee this will get passed, because the American people be outlashed. First, the American people, we can't be too quick to be mad at TSA agents. What about if you went into work and didn't get paid? What if you went into work and did not get paid? So if TSA state, you know what, there won't be any checks and balances of us running through x-ray machines, we won't do none of it. If all TSA agents went on the strike, I guarantee this shutdown would be this shutdown bill, the stopgap bill, would be signed in less than 48 hours, because they are essential workers that help America to move. Americans to move around the country, do business. Everybody use airlines for all sorts of reasons. And the one first safety checkpoint is going through a TSA agent. I want you guys to really think about that. Because if these TSA agents just decided to unify and organize and state that unless we're getting paid, we're not coming in, and all of our airports shut down, all of them. The only airline that would be flying the friendly skies would be Air Force One. And I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, if we had that sort of a unification, the organization within this country with a lot of these federal departments among the workers, if they went to that degree, this government would be up and running in less than 48 hours. Mark my words. But I know that a lot of people won't do that because they're thinking about friends, family, and loved ones. I get it. But at the same time, when are the American citizens going to take a little bit of our power back and show them that without us, there's no you? I want you guys to think about that. There is no American government without the people. If the people just sat on our hands and did nothing, like, you know what, essential workers, we're staying home until you get this government back and running. You guys are playing games with the American people, and we're tired of it. I'm a Republican, but I'm tired of the government playing these games. Extend the health care for those low-income Americans. Yeah, delete any sort of healthcare support that is for illegal immigrants. Take it all away. No, we don't want any support for illegal immigrants, but for low-income American citizens, absolutely, because they have spoken and stated that 80% of American and 57% of MAGA They want the Affordable Health Care Act and those tax credits to be extended. I digress. Now, a new flashpoint, because let me go through this very quickly as well, because President Trump has been stating that there's a deal on the table, and Chuck Schumer here stated that there's no deal on the table. Okay, it says Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said Monday there are no pending bipartisan talks over expiring health insurance subsidies, despite a claim from President Trump, because the president stated that in the Oval Office, reporters just yesterday, we have a negotiation going on right now with the Democrats that could lead to very good things with regard to health care. He later reiterated, we are speaking with the Democrats on health care, but did not specify with whom. So either Chuck Schumer is not informed of what President Trump is negotiating with, which if anyone that President Trump should be negotiating with, it should be with the majority leader of the Democratic Party. So I don't know who is he talking to, but nonetheless, Chuck Schumer said, nope, we're not talking. There's no negotiating on the table, okay? He's the Senate Majority Leader, but they're not talking to him. So I wonder who's President Trump talking to that has the power to have this deal and these negotiations to go forward so they can reopen the government. But Chuck Schumer said that's a lie. That's basically what he stated. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of this particular story, because ICE friction with the Chicago Police Department has escalated into allegations of fake 911 calls deployed to draw police away from immigrant neighborhoods. That's what they're stating they're doing. It's a dangerous gamble. These allegations of fake 911 calls to deploy to draw police away from immigrant neighborhoods. That's what the ICE agents are doing, because I think in some regards, the police officers was almost like protecting the illegal immigrants or immigrant neighborhoods. So ICE agents are making fake 911 calls to draw away the Chicago Police Department from a lot of these immigrant neighborhoods. And this is a dangerous gamble, provoking chaos so ICE can operate with less local interference. And local officials call it reckless and residents call it terror. I want you guys to think about what's going on right now. The whole entire country is infighting. The government, law enforcement, social media, everyone speaking out against everyone. We have political violence. We have people getting killed, people attempted to being killed. This is absolutely and utterly ridiculous. And believe me, and when I tell you this, I hate to say it, because America is a great country on paper and in theory, but the reality is this: America is in shambles right now. America is in rubble right now. The way that things are being conducted, the way that things are going on right now. We have ICE agents calling in fake 911 calls in order to draw the police away from immigrant neighborhoods. So when ICE comes in, they can have less local officials on ground to prevent and stop them from detaining and apprehending and basically kidnapping people. Because we talked about yesterday, or I think a couple of days, maybe it was even last week, where ICE agents did a military raid on an apartment building. And they just didn't go to apartments where they had information that a possible illegal immigrant was staying and or living. They rappelled from helicopters, they threw flashbangs and smoke, and they zip-tied children together and had them to vacate the apartment building just for them to ID them later. Not coming to the door like civil people say, hey, we hate to do this, but nonetheless, we're trying to eradicate the country of illegal immigrants. Can you please show us your real ID? Do you have, a passport or some sort of government state ID that we can, you can identify yourself properly with? But no, they literally had everyone to come out after they zip tied everyone. And some of these citizens, American citizens, had guns pointing to their head. And this is the war between local police officers, ICE agents, that is going back and forth in Chicago right now. It's full out war in these streets, ladies and gentlemen. Now, granted, I'm all for illegal immigrants being eradicated from our country. But again, there is a proper way in doing so. And again, according to the Constitution, a lot of the people that are illegally in our country they do have a right to due process. But on the American, and not but in refuting what I just stated, but what about the American citizens being treated as if they are legally in this country? Is law enforcement, whether it be local police officers, the National Guard, ICE agents, adopted ICE agents, people who want to take the law into their own hands, are they treating American citizens like they're free in this country? Now, please leave your comments in the section below. If you're new to Blacklogic, hit the subscribe button, the like button, and please let me know your thoughts. Please let me know some of your ideas of how this can become a lot better situation than it already is, because as I told you, don't let the government play you as a fool. I don't know the last time I read an everyday American say, I'm a Republican. Are you an elected official? Are you part of the Senate? Are you part of the Congress? No, your allegiances lie with the Republican Party, but you're not a Republican. The same way with Democrats. You're not a Democratic delegate. You're not a Democrat official. You most vote Democrat. You vote for the policies and legislations that lawmakers on the Democratic side, the Democratic Party comes up with. But we as American citizens, we are really not belonging to any political party. We may vote one way majority of the time or all the time, but we have no power once we cast in our vote. Once you let that vote go, they tell you, well, if you don't vote, you don't have a voice. Why can't I use my vote as leverage? That is my voice. Why can't I use my vote as a bargaining chip? Why can't I use my vote to negotiate what I want was best for this country as an American citizen? Because once you cast in our vote, which we've already done, and we have the government in place that we have now, then guess what? They're making all these decisions without the American people. And I just want to remind you guys, as they keep telling you on MSNBC, CNN, Fox, whatever news channel you watch, that this is the democracy. This is not a democracy. Read the Constitution. This is a republic. And that's why you have people that don't have any allegiance to the American people, but to the political power of their office, are the representatives of us. But if you notice, they're not speaking for us, because if they did, the government will be open.